Dr. Davis is a physician, successful serial entrepreneur, and inventor, having authored over 350 patents and trademarks worldwide. From 1981 to 1986, he was a flight surgeon and hyperbaric officer, while an officer in the United States Navy, and received 2 Chief of Naval Operations citations for his actions. Dr. Davis is a lifetime ensign and has been a National Director of Campus Museum of Science and Industry since 1998. He continues to hold an active medical license in good standing in Florida. Dr. Davis has recently formed Patriot Storm, which is spearheading the largest armada of integrated class action lawsuits in history. These lawsuits will be directed against a single defendant, the Federal Reserve System. The company intends to prove that this private central banking company system has failed miserably and is in fact operating against the best interests of the American people who it was sworn to protect. Now, the litigation will be seeking full restitution of interest payments and other damages totaling in excess of $100 trillion in the name of the American people. All U.S. citizens, businesses, and civil jurisdictions are being invited to join as co-plaintiffs in this case. Built upon the tobacco litigation model of the 1990s, Patriot Storm will unleash a tsunami of legal challenges directed against the Federal Reserve in thousands of local, state, and federal courts all across this country, listing dozens of causes of action seeking the fair redress of the people's grievances. Several thousand law firms faithful to the Constitution will be retained to bring the cases to jury trials. Once successful, the Federal Reserve will be abolished. Always follow the money. In this case, the money of the money masters, the Federal Reserve. Dr. Davis has met personally with Texas Congressman and former presidential candidate Ron Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, just a few weeks ago. Ron Paul has been trying to get the Fed audited, and I invite you to talk with Dr. Davis about his discussions with Ron Paul at the social hour tonight after the Tancredo banquet here in the Doubletree Lounge. We are honored to have Dr. Richard Davis with us here today at the Save America Convention. Please welcome Dr. Richard Davis.
Well, I really appreciate everybody coming out today. First thing I'd like everybody to do is just stand up and stretch yourself. Sitting for hours is great, but just take a stretch here for a minute. I'm going to take us on into the lunch hour, and everybody's going to be excited about that. I'm going to talk to you today about something that needs to happen, and it's important that it happens. And just as you said, it's important to follow the money. Whenever you're concerned about what's going on in the government or in business, you really need to follow the money. And today we're going to follow the money. We're going to find out what's going on in the Federal Reserve. And I call it money crimes, because that's exactly what it is. And I love this passage in the Bible. It says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. What I'm going to talk about today is something that's truthful, and hopefully it will set us free, all of us. Because whether we know it or not, we're living in a tyranny. We're living in a debt slavery that happened, just as you heard from Paul, since 1913. But we've grown up with it. We're like frogs sitting in a boiler pot with the heat being turned up. We didn't notice it. Our parents didn't notice it. Our grandparents didn't notice it. It's been around for almost 100 years. But I'm going to warn you, the things I'm going to talk to you about today are shocking. They're going to make you feel uncomfortable. They're going to make you feel angry. And they're going to hopefully cause you to actually be able to do something. One of my biggest frustrations is, what do we do? There's not much that we can do other than hopefully vote for the right guy, and then hopefully he doesn't get seduced by the dark side of the force when he gets to Congress, finally. But I'm going to challenge your long-held beliefs on what you think is money, and what you believe about debt. And as an ER physician, I know a lot about death. I've seen way too much death in my lifetime. What I'm telling you right now is that it is critical for you to understand what's going on with our money supply, our fiscal and monetary policies, because it affects all of us. Every one of us in this room. It affects our children, our grandchildren, and our progeny thereafter, because if you don't have a sound monetary system, you can't have any kind of freedom. What's at stake today, and like everyone said right now, is that we need to act right now. I saw a joke on the internet, it was great. It was talking about a guy who's so frustrated and fed up with all the stuff that's going on. He was so depressed, he called the crisis hotline. Well, he got this call center in Pakistan. They got really excited when they found out he was suicidal and could drive a truck. So, I'm not suicidal, I can drive a truck. But what we need to understand is that our economy is teetering on the verge of total collapse. I know that Kurt is going to talk about that a little bit later, so I'm not going to go into it. But the death of our economy, the death of our freedoms and our liberty, and the death of the American dream. How many countries in the world do people from every other country in the world flock to? Do they go to Indonesia? I mean, really, do they go to Brazil? No, they've come to the United States because of the American dream. And that's about to perish. And it's all based on the financial aspect, the fiscal and monetary policies of the Federal Reserve. And if the worst happens, if social unrest comes, and we do have this, every one of us here could lose everything we have, including our lives. And that's something you really need to think about. I'd like to just play 4 minutes of this video that we were talking about, freedom to fascism. If we could just play those 4 minutes, then I'll come back to the rest of my presentation.